What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Lucid, give you a quick overview of some of the data points, break it down, what's really moving it, and what Panasonic CEO just said about Lucid. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid surprisingly is in the red, 0.16%. So sitting at 308, 307 the low, 323 the high. So as soon as the market did open, it kind of piggybacked off of the broader market's optimism, which is stemming from these. So both permits and starts came in better than the forecast, and that's one thing that the feds have kind of stated in the past that they're going to really watch for. Obviously housing, and ultimately that's very good stuff. The only negative side of this is that with having this good data and everything else, it kind of doesn't really justify any rate cuts. So you have seen this go down a little bit, so the likelihood for the March meeting to have any cuts, and then for the January 29th, I think that was already the writing on the wall that there won't be any cuts. So it is what it is. I'd rather have good data rather than rate cuts, but that's just me. You do your own due diligence and all the other fun jazz. Aside from that, no actual news associated to Lucid today, no SEC filings. They did do a couple posts on social media. So today they are at the Montreal Auto Show, but I've already talked on that the last couple of videos, so nothing really new information for that. The only thing that did come out that was relatively new was this. So I want to give a shout out to Let's Go Lucid. So working on 800 miles of range. So this individual kind of quotes obviously the Panasonic CEO saying that she's bullish on the whole partnership and what that means for them, AI, and just the future of obviously EVs. Brings up solid state batteries. So I find that very interesting because Gagnon, during the recent his last fireside chat, he did bring up solid state batteries on how they're testing it and working on it, potentially to accommodate a partnership. Most likely, if I was to take a guess, a Chinese entity, but I think all in all, it's very interesting. So 800 miles of range. So I'm going to quickly play this for you. I think it's like a minute and a bit, just the Lucid component, but it is a 6-minute video. But again, I want to give a shout out to Let's Go Lucid for actually finding this. A lot of good information out there. You just sometimes need to dig deep. So let me know your thoughts on this.
Announced, and Lucid as well.
That's right, with the Gravity project.
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting. So I got a question for you about Lucid. And when I read it was from an audience member, I was trying to think, like, what's the core of this question? But I think people were surprised that you partnered with Lucid on the Gravity. It might not necessarily be a high volume EV initially. What was your thinking there?
So Panasonic being a 106 years old company, and it's great to work with the partners like Subaru and Mazda, but we're very also keen on working with up and coming newer companies,
right,
so that they challenge us and we learn from them and make sure that we're partnering and capable of partnering with the companies like Lucid. And we're really excited about that. It's going really well.
I've covered that company a few years, and interesting vehicles, they're not very good at building them, you know, from a volume perspective. When you make a decision like that, how do you weigh that up in your head? You know, because you want to be able to provide supply, it helps you in supply chain planning.
I do think we, as a company, want to take a chance and partner with the companies that operate different ways than us. Blue Yonder is an example, right? It's a software company, US-based, and Lucid is also a newer partner too. But we have a success cases with Tesla 10 years ago, and we're doing it again with Lucid, and we're very bullish about that.
What is the latest on the Tesla relationship? Where are you innovating?
So yeah, there you have it. Very bullish. This individual, I kind of find him obviously bearish ultimately about Lucid. And funny thing is, he says that he's covered Lucid for a while now, but he would know that technically Lucid already has a pre-existing partnership with Panasonic, and that was announced, I think, 2023, something like that. So he should know that already. So shame on him. But generally, I think he's kind of bearish. In reality, just wanted to kind of state in that video, I listened to it in its entirety. It doesn't actually bring up solid state batteries, nor does it state that Lucid is going to be kind of doing that 800 miles of range. Most likely, I think that's kind of the next step, but just for transparency, that video doesn't actually state it. But getting back to the actual stuff, right now shorts are increasing 358,000 shares. They have pulled back quite a lot. So at its peak, they were increasing roughly around, it looks like 2.4 million shares, and that does coincide with this right here. So they're the kind of culprits on what really brought it down, and then maybe just some last minute fears and stuff like that. There is a lot of barcoding, so that is a telltale sign of algorithmic trading, so just kind of be aware of that. But 18.98% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 226.16 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost of borrow average 1.07, then utilization is 74.63. So I think they really did want, and maybe they are trying to bring Lucid down sub 3 because of options. So 778,000 in calls, 253,000 in puts. 44% of all the options being done today are bearish in nature. So that is rather odd. But of the call options that are being purchased, you see consensus for it to be above 350 for next week, partially even 4. And then for January 16th, 2026, you see a couple pockets right here for it to be above 450 for 5 in May. So kind of good stuff. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 250 next week, and oddly right here, sub $1.50 for January the 31st. Not really sure what would really prompt that because their earnings is later in February, so I don't really know exactly why they're getting that. But aside from that though, the reason why shorts are active today is because of this. This is a monthly chain, very, very active. So 42,000 in open interest at the 250, 37 at the 3, 37,000 at that 350. So market makers and shorts had a financial interest in ensuring it closes below 350 and as well below 3. So you might see, potentially, as crazy as it sounds, another test for it to kind of push below 3, just to ensure none of these are kind of in the money. And so ultimately, I think it's fair to assume that the 250, so 42,000 is going to be considered at least in the money for the bare minimum worst case scenario. So that equates to 4.2 million shares. So you might see a bump up come Monday because of that. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000, so not all that much, regrettably. So not really a lot of institutions buying the dip, and this is why algorithmic trading is kind of taking over. So you can see all the barcoding. So something again just to keep in mind. With it at 307, it is trading between these 2 points, so this R1 and the pivot. 289 is going to be the strong support, then 342 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. So just anticipate a lot of volatility going forward. I'm looking at the 1-day chart on the side note, so that is very strong support and resistance points. You can always move it down to the 4-hour as well, just gives you more of a closer benchmark. So 291 and then 319 as well are separate levels, but no new analyst ratings, nothing along those lines associated to Lucid. No forecast changes for their upcoming earnings. Based on the technicals, things are still looking somewhat good. So it is above the ALMA, still above both the 100 and 200-day moving averages. So I think just today is a consolidation day, getting somewhat manipulated by shorts, which shorts are taking advantage, I think, of just the generally low volume today. So yeah, I think all in all, Lucid is going to continue to kind of move higher a little bit leading into their earnings. That's just my own prediction, of course. One thing as well that could really help Lucid is the fact that it is very oversold. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Are you buying? Are you selling? What are you doing with Lucid? And what is your potential thoughts on this right here? I do like the fact that she said that we did this 10 years ago with Tesla, now we're doing it with Lucid. So it goes to show that they have the same level of optimism that they once did with Tesla. So I see that as bullish. So let me know your viewpoint on that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolute bangers. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.